The Political Dragon here in the Bronx, New York. It is currently 7:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4:20 in the California area. Don't go crazy. But I'm happy to be here with you. And we're talking a little bit about the Trump cabinet. We're talking about the shadow government that's going to be coming up. We've been talking about what is the impact globally? How are we seeing things shape out? What are some of the lies and some of the misconceptions that are being brought to fore as we get closer to the result, Donald Trump being the 47th president of the United States. Now, before we had to, I had to take my dog back out. Khan, come over here. Say hello to everybody. He'll come over in a minute. He's eating some food right now. But before I had to take him out the second time, I was talking about CNN, their interview, Laura Coates, talking with North Carolina District 13 Congressman Wiley Nickel. And his suggestion that is now being spread amongst Democrat leadership that they should create a shadow government, a second government of the United States, which I feel is insurrectionist, and this will lead us to a second civil war. And you know, it's incredible that we have reached this point. For if you remember, in January 6th, we were told we were the bad guys. We were told everybody who didn't vote for Joe Biden, who didn't vote for Kamala Harris, we were the bad people. That's what they told us over and over again, that we had done something wrong. And yet, since that time, we have seen the economy get worse. We have seen the stability of the world get worse. They want to say, oh, January 6th, you were trying to commit an insurrection. Yes, there were 300,000 people. Yes, tens of thousands, 10,000 people were walking around in the Congress, and most of them were walking through as police officers watched them. There was no alternate government. There was no alternate plan. No, they were just upset. They didn't trust the government. And as we can see right now, they had good reason, because in Pennsylvania, Democrats are fighting over the fact that they have invalid ballots that they want to count. They can't win. They just want to look good. They want to have more power. They want an excuse to get you to obey and give them money and power. And that, I think, is a problem. Now, you may disagree. You may say, Mike, you just don't understand. You misunderstand what they're saying. But remember, you were told you're an insurrectionist if you just don't go along, if you ask questions. And remember, we didn't have a second government. The right didn't try and create their own Secretary of State, their own Attorney General, their own Treasury Secretary. They didn't create these alternatives to a government that already exists. No, we didn't do that. But that's what Democrats are doing. But they're telling you, that's not insurrectionist. That's perfectly fine. That's normal. It happens in England, that has an entirely different structure of government, that has always been different. Matter of fact, that's why we had the war, the Revolutionary War, to not be like England, to not be held to the standards of England and its nobility and its class structure. No, we wanted something different. We wanted individual freedom. That's why we created the Constitution. We made the amendments, the Bill of Rights. That's why we are different. And why everyone is trying to get into America, everyone in the world isn't trying to get into England. That's just a fact. We have more people trying to get into America from England than are trying to get into England. But let's think about that for a moment, because we've been covering a lot. By the way, again, tomorrow, November 18th, I'll be on with the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier, talking to the Center of America and syndication. On the 21st, we're going to be speaking with Hard Lens Media. You just saw Kit Cabello and his panel. I was there. I'm the first and only Republican that he's had on his program. He's going to be doing me a favor. He's going to come back on our program talking about the potential of a second civil war. On the 25th, we'll be covering the Bronx County Conservative Party live at their November event with one of the councilwomen and one of the New York City councilwomen, talking about the future of New York City and New York State. And on the 26th, we will be interviewing the first declared mayoral candidate for New York City, Darren Aquino. This should all be very interesting. I'm looking forward to each and every one of them. But we were talking about the shadow government. And I know I had a slight error before when we were playing this, so I'm going to play it again. This is, again, from CNN, and all the links for everything we're discussing will be in the description about an hour after the show. All the links will be up on Rumble, on YouTube, so that you can see the links for yourself. Just go through everything if you want to. But here it is.
That mirrors the cabinet and publicly challenges them. Say Senator-elect Adam Schiff as Shadow Attorney General, Congressman Gregory Meeks, Secretary of State, or Colorado Senator Michael Bennet as Treasury Secretary. Well, that idea isn't just coming from a strategist, but a lawmaker. And joining me now, the man behind this idea, Congressman Wiley, a Democrat from North Carolina. No dream music needed. You're in person with us. Congressman, why do you think this is the way to possibly challenge this administration?
First of all, this is something we can do. This is something that definitely can happen. And they've been doing it for over 100 years in the UK.
This is something we can definitely do. Create a second government for the United States. I suppose we could do it, and we have done it before. It was called 1860. Well, the time frame was 1860. It was called the Confederacy. And then they broke from the United States. It was the cause of the Second Civil War because we had two governments with two very different plans for America. And so we didn't have an America anymore. We had a civil war instead. That's why we don't do this. It's been happening for hundreds of years in England. We're not England. And this isn't a parliamentary system. We don't have a parliament. We don't have the left as part of the government with the right. That's what England has. We have the left or the right or the center or whomever. We have one group in charge of America, one person in charge. We don't have two people for Secretary of State. We have one Secretary of State. That's it. So when he's saying, oh, no, this is normal, he's trying to distract you. He's trying to make it seem normal for him to do something that is completely abnormal. He's trying to make you think it's ordinary for what is the definition of insurrection. He wants to lay the groundwork for creating a second civil war and dividing this nation. He wants you to think that's absolutely commonplace. What do you mean this is a problem? This is normal. This is the way it should be. Because he's upset that his party lost, that there is a mandate, public mandate, to go against what he feels. And that is something we should keep in mind. Let me go on with his own words.
So this is an idea that his time has come. And if we do the exact same thing against Trump, we're going to get the same results. We have to.
It's an idea whose time has come. Why didn't we do this under the first Trump administration? He was just as bad then. You were telling us Orange Man bad in 2016. In 2016, as we showed you earlier, we had in the college campuses, they were saying white people were evil. That was CRT, critical race theory, in front of our eyes. Then in 2020, we saw it again with our children and remote learning. You've been indoctrinating kids for a generation now on this idea. Why didn't you do it before? Why is it a brand new idea only now and only after you lost? You weren't suggesting this when Kamala Harris was in and the polls showed her being up. You didn't suggest this idea for anyone else but your party after you lost power. Now that you're a lame duck party, and you're losing power, now it's time to have a second government, that you need your voice out at all times. You already have control of the news media. You have control and you suppress social media. We know that. It's proven. Again, like we said before, Mark Zuckerberg admitted that. We have the Twitter files that admit that. We've seen the documents in Congress. We know that the FBI, the CIA, the White House are deeply enmeshed in all of the news media. So why do you need it now? Oh, because you don't have power going forward. You guys lost, and you can't accept that. And because you can't accept that, yes, there will be a peaceful exchange of power as we create a totally separate second government to second guess and to confuse every nation in the world. What, we're going to have a treaty and then you're going to have the Democrats say, no, that's not a real treaty. We have a different opinion. We're going to have politics and policies, and Democrats are going to say, no, those policies don't exist. We have a different government. This is how you create a civil war. You create a government and infrastructure first, and then you fill it in with your followers, and then you revolt. That's not what happened on January 6th. And that's not what we've seen from the right. It's only from the left. Because when the left does something, well, then it's perfectly natural and normal. When the left has segregation, and we see it, they separate kids in schools based on the color of their skin. We've seen it in Chicago. We've seen it in California. Yes, they commit segregation. We have safe spaces that are only valid for black people, not white people, and only dark-skinned people, not light-skinned people. That's called segregation. Oh. And we have DEI. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, which the inclusion means that you have to do what we say, otherwise you're excluded. Equity, which is based on skin color and gender preference. That's segregation. That's segregating people based on a criteria that is arbitrary and sometimes even intrinsic. That's what the left is doing. But let's hear the rest of him justifying this second government in our nation that only has one government. Let's hear the rest from this North Carolina congressman that you have never heard from before, but he has a plan.
Step up our game. We have to go toe-to-toe with Trump. And it's not just about saying, what we're against. It's about saying what we're for and putting our best messengers out there to go toe-to-toe.
Because they can't do that. They can't go toe-to-toe. They can't put their best message out on the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. What am I leaving out? NBC. What is the Huffington Post? How many news organizations are there? How many of them are left-leaning? How many newspapers and social media organizations are there that are dedicated to the left? BLM, Antifa. How many of these groups? But they have no voice. The Democrats no one hears anything that the Democrats have to say, except every single day, all day long, everywhere you turn. It's not like Hollywood is leftist. It's not like Disney is leftist. Not like all the programs that they're putting out are leftist, which is why the public don't want them and they continue to fail. And yet they still pump out this leftist ideology consistently. Yeah. They just are unheard. They need help. They need help to get their voice out because you're obviously not hearing them, even though they control 80 to 90% of all media in this country. Yeah, they're completely unheard, silent. Yeah.
Elise Stefanik at the UN, we should have someone going one-on-one with her, talking about what we would do better and why the choices they make are wrong.
So he wants Elise Stefanik, who is by President Trump. She's Representative Elise Stefanik. She's been made, or she will be, the ambassador for the United States at the UN. And he wants a Democrat. So as soon as Elise Stefanik finishes speaking, saying this is what the United States thinks about issues that affect the entire world, he wants the Democrat Party to have a second voice, to get on that same stage and to tell those very same nations, nope, everything she said is wrong. We want to do something completely different than what America and the duly elected officials of America, what they want, it doesn't matter. We have an entirely different plan. What are the countries around the world supposed to think? Who are they supposed to follow? Well, they're going to follow whoever they think is the best, whoever's going to give them the most. Like the $200 million that we gave to Pakistan under the Biden-Harris administration. Let's see, Trump will say, we're not going to try and convince every nation in the world to be California. And therefore, we're going to cut all of that foreign aid that we're sending out to teach people gender studies in all these foreign countries. No, you don't want to be California. Californians don't want to be in California. That's why they're the second biggest exodus state in the entire country. New York is number one, but California is number two. So if Californians don't want to be California, then why should Pakistan? Why should any other nation? And why should we spend $2.6 billion a year, individual countries getting hundreds of million dollars? Why should we spend that money and create more inflation, devalue the dollar more and more, and make poor people in America even more poor? Why should we waste our money with any of that? And Pakistan will hear that. And the Democrat will go, no, gender studies is really, really important. We want to give you another $50 million for gender studies that the Pakistanis don't care about, that other nations around the world don't care about. They don't want to be California, but they want the money. They'll take the money, but they won't become California. And if they have a choice between we're going to cut the money or you're going to get more money from the Democrats, which one are they going to listen to? That's called two governments in one country. That doesn't exist. That doesn't work. That's called civil war. Hang on. Let's go on to see what this Wiley nickel has to say.
So what would this look like? It would be somebody who acts as if it was, State of the Union, a response they would give every time there is a major speech or press conference, or they'd have their own issue or white papers. What would this look like in practice?
First and foremost, it's about accountability. It's about keeping.
Okay, so he didn't answer the question. What is this going to be? Are you going to come out like I just said? Oh, we speak to the UN. There's going to be a Democrat who's going to say, oh, by the way, I'm the Democrat representative for the UN. And I have an entirely different speech. I have an entirely different plan. Is that what you're going to do? If Donald Trump comes out and says that he's going to follow the law, immigration law, as an example, are the Democrats going to say, no, we're Democrats. We don't believe in that. Yeah, but you're not in charge. What's everyone in the world supposed to believe? What's the law of the land? You're creating a problem. See, he doesn't want to mention that because no matter what scenario you put forth, if you say, I'm the Democrat Attorney General, I'm the Democrat Secretary of State, I'm the anyone else besides the official elected, duly appointed representative of the United States government, you're creating a civil war. And he doesn't want you to think about that. He wants your money and your support because it sounds great. Yeah, well, Donald Trump, orange man, bad. We have to respond to that. That's what they do that every day. They've been doing that every day for 8 years on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, all the news media. They do it every day. Rachel Maddow's that is their biggest numbers, eyeballs. The reason why people are watching these channels and watching these, whether it's on YouTube or on mainstream media, the reason why people are watching, to listen to them talk about Orange Man bad and to attack him all day for 8 years. And you mean to tell me but that's not enough. You need more of a voice. This doesn't make any sense unless you want to have an insurrection, unless you want to start a second civil war.
Public pressure on every member of the cabinet. When they step out of line, you got someone, who is there ready to call.
They're doing it now. He's doing it now. It's called CNN. They already do that. Why do you need to have a second Secretary of State? Why do you need another Attorney General? Why do you have a Democrat cabinet? They want to call it a shadow cabinet. It's not. There are no libertarians there. There's no third parties there. These are Democrats. This is their attempt to keep power. That's all it is. It is plain as day. They're trying to make it sound nice, but what he's doing right now tells you it doesn't need to exist. He can get on CNN any day. He can get in he's a congressman. He can get on statewide news any day and have a conversation, and the news media will show up and report it. There's no lack of access. They want power. And they want you to give them that power. They want you to be on their side for when they say it's time to revolt. And that's how they start a second civil war. Let's go on.
Call them out. That's something we don't have. You know, you've got an issue with the EPA. You've got the spokesman taking a counterpoint right away on your show. That's the point of it. Something where leadership.
Hold it. The EPA. Let's take a real world example. So under the Biden-Harris administration, East Palestine, Ohio, there was a train crash, there was a chemical spill, there was a chemical fire, which was affecting East Palestine. There was an ineffective response from Pete Buttigieg, who is the Department of Transportation secretary. He failed. He didn't want to address it. Republicans, conservatives, Americans, let their voices be heard. We did videos about it. We had articles about it. The news media covered it. Social media covered it. We said that it was inefficient and ineffective, that the Biden-Harris administration failed, that Secretary Buttigieg failed. And we got not only just attention, we had action. Because he failed so bad, the Biden-Harris administration had to take further action and try to fix the problem. Mind you, I don't think they fixed it very well. I don't think it was effective, but we were heard. We didn't need a shadow government. We didn't need a second, a Republican, a shadow Republican Secretary of Transportation to answer this. We went onto the news media that already exists. We went onto social media that already exists. We wrote letters and we sent emails to the government saying this was unsatisfactory. It wasn't effective or efficient. We were heard because we have a constitution and it starts with we the people, a Declaration of Independence. We the people. Because we are the power of the government, not these politicians. But now he's trying to convince you. He's trying to convince you that no, it's not enough. We need a second government. That is an insurrection. This is treasonous. Let's go on.
You know, Hakeem Jeffries, Schumer, they could appoint folks, and we've got a ready match to go toe to toe. And it's worked well in the UK.
There are some who would look at
again. The UK parliamentary government has nothing to do with the American congressional government or the representative government, constitution that we have. It has nothing to do with us. He's trying to mix it and make it sound, but it's normal. In other places in the world, we should do it here. Give us power. Power we don't have. Power we lost because the public voted against the Democrats because they lost the election. But they can't give up power. This is how they usurp. Listen to his words. Are you hear what he's saying? Because it doesn't make sense. And Laura Coates, if she was doing her job, would be pushing back going, but we have that now. You're on the news right now. We have, every time there's any bill in Congress, we have all of the media right there. We have a White House press corps. We have social media. People are constantly responding every day. Why do you need more power? Power that doesn't exist in the Constitution. He won't answer that question, and she won't ask it. She won't ask that question because we all know the answer. Because this is just a way to get an insurrection.
Look at this and criticize it and suggest that you'd be delegitimizing this administration, not simply giving an alternative accountability vehicle. What do you say to those who'd question this as a ploy to try to undermine a decisive victory?
I think it's about making sure that they're accountable. That's the whole point of it.
We already have the mechanism guaranteed by the Constitution, by the amendments, by law in every single state. We already have the mechanism. The news media already exists. We already have the First Amendment that guarantees we have the means to effectively keep the government accountable. We already have that. We have elections every single year. We have the midterm elections in 2 years. We have the way to keep the government accountable. What he's talking about isn't accountability. He's talking about insurrection. He's talking about treason. He's talking about splitting the country. That's what he's talking about.
And, you know, like anything, you start it from scratch. You get to do it our own way, our own American way.
The American way isn't to have two governments in one nation. That's not the American way.
You know, they've done it for a while again in the UK. But, you know, what I want to do is I want an answer. I want a message on our issues. I want to talk about the stuff that we want to do. So,
like he's doing right now, he wants to talk about the issues he wants to talk about. He wants to talk about the issues he wants, like they're doing right now on CNN. Just like Adam Schiff will be doing on CNN. Just like the Democratic Senator-elect in Arizona, Gallego, is doing on CNN. They're doing it already. They have the ability to get on national TV on a moment's notice. They're doing it. So what does he need? An alternate secondary government in the United States, if it isn't insurrection. Anyone on the left that would like to answer this for me, anyone on the left that has a way to explain this and tell me how it's not insurrectionist, how this isn't treasonous, how this isn't destroying the nation and dividing this nation even further. Anyone on the left want to give me a real answer. Don't tell me, well, it's just like England. We're not England. We're not a parliamentary system. It is not just like England. It doesn't matter what England or India or any other nation does. That's not what America does. That isn't the way our system is built. And he has the opportunity and the means to keep any government accountable. He wants power. He wants power. The Democrats want power. And they're using Willie Nickel out of North Carolina's 13th district because you don't know him. So when he says it, it's not the same as if Pelosi said this, everyone in America would be screaming right now saying, that's crazy. If you heard it from Chuck Schumer, you'd hear everyone say, that's treasonous. But you don't know who this guy is. So no one knows what's going on. They think, oh, well, this small guy saying this on purpose. Because if anyone of any importance actually said this, you would be taking him serious and you would be afraid. But this guy, Willie Nickel, out of North Carolina's 13th district, nobody knows who he is. This is his moment of claim to fame. No one's paying attention to him, and he gets to slip this through. He makes it seem normal. So when the Democrats do it, oh, well, you know, I heard this before. It doesn't sound that outrageous. They said it was just, you know, it was normal. It's like England. And so they take away your rights, they take away your power, they change the government. They create an insurrection. Let's go on. Let's hear Mr. Nickel try and justify this without and let's see how many more times he mentions it's just like England.
So in the next election, we say, okay, you know, Trump is deporting, you know, families. This is the policy we would put in place. And that's what you get with the shadow.
That's called that's called an election. That's called a debate. That's a presidential debate. If President Trump passes a policy or initiates a policy that the American people don't like, one, we can immediately respond. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got YouTube, we've got the news media, we've got letters to the editor. You can write a letter to the White House. We already have the way to tell him that. We also have the ability in 2026 to vote in a Democratic a Democrat Senate, a Democrat House of Representatives, if we want to, which is also a signal saying there is a new mandate for the nation if we don't like the policies. And at the end of it all, in 2028, because Donald Trump isn't running again, he can't. He's term limit. He's locked. He's not running again. So if there is any other Republican running, and they agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies, mass deportations or not, then guess what? We get to have a debate. We get to look at that and say, I like that idea. I don't like that idea. We get to vote them out. So we already have everything that he is suggesting. The only thing we don't have is two governments in one country. That's what he's saying. And that's the one thing that is insurrectionist, that is the way to cause a second, that is the cornerstone, the bedrock of creating a civil war. That's what is being suggested here.
Shadow cabinet.
Why do 70% of critical thinkers ditch Disney Plus? Because they found something better. In today's economy, every dollar counts. So what's worth subscribing to? Let's compare Disney Plus and no Soundbites Allowed. With Disney Plus, you're shelling out $140 a year for virtue signaling shows targeting mythical modern audiences. Plus, a theater visit could cost you $40 or more. Ouch. Now imagine a platform where fresh perspectives, insightful interviews, and engaging discussions are at your fingertips. That's no Soundbites Allowed. And the best part? It's free with an option to support only if you choose. While Disney Plus ticks off virtue signal checkboxes, no Soundbites Allowed offers real talk and sharp analysis. Perfect for those who crave depth and clarity. Why break the bank for entertainment? Subscribe to No Soundbites Allowed and enjoy meaningful content without the hefty price tag.